All right. Well, good morning, everybody. It's Rob Foglia and Jessica Klein with Foglia Properties here at Keller Williams in Nashville. And we wanted to come to you today to talk about basically how to write a competitive offer as a buyer. And we're actually going to use one of our recently closed listings as an example of, with pricing and then how to get in the right mindset as a buyer as well. And you ready to jump in and get started, Jessica?
Yeah, yep. I think it's a great topic. Let's get going.
All right, cool. So before we even do dive in, just because we had a little teaser at the end of last week's video about a current listing of ours that we talked a little bit about pricing of a home that we had just listed in Smyrna, and we actually did get multiple offers on the home. Ended up with 7 offers on the home, and
Yep, 7 offers, 3 days.
in 3 days, and had a ton of showings over the weekend. And the sellers, are thrilled. We're under contract, well above asking price, and we did it in the right way because they were able to kind of pick and choose who they worked with in terms of the buyer. So it ended up just like what we were talking about last Thursday or Friday, whenever the video was. And so go back and check that out if you're a homeowner and you're thinking about, well, hey, how does pricing work, etc. We're absolutely happy to have a one-on-one conversation with you. But let's dive into this one and talk a little bit about 1288 Brentwood Highlands that we closed back in July, or July 1st. It was when actually, was it the 1st or was it the 30th? Either way, 2 weeks ago, basically, we'll call it 2 weeks ago when we closed on this home. And, I wanted to use this as an example because I think it's a perfect example of pricing it right to hit the nail right on the head when it comes to the market, like market value as a seller. And then as a buyer, how do you determine how it's priced, basically? And so, real quick, before we even look at any comps, just to give y'all an idea of the home, this was a great home that we had listed for sale. Pretty straightforward, 3-bed, 2-bath with a bonus room, about 2,000 square feet. Just to scroll through some of the pictures real quickly, you'll see, pretty standard kitchen for, a home that was built, I believe this was 2002. I'd have to look again, but early 2000s. White appliances, non-upgraded countertops, doesn't have granite or anything like that. Cute home, definitely, and in great shape. It did need a little paint love, and that's another reason why we had it priced where we ended up pricing it. But again, cute home. Does have carpet in just about most of the homes. It has carpets, carpet in the bedrooms there, carpet in the living room as well. You see some hardwood in the hallway. But a pretty straightforward home. That's nice bonus room up here as well. And so, anything that I'm forgetting on this one before we jump to the comps, just to kind of get in the head of an example of pricing.
No, I think that gives a good idea. The pictures are always maybe just noting how many beds and baths.
Yeah. So yeah, 3 beds, 2 baths, just shy of 2,000 square feet, and yeah, built in 2002. So, close to 20 years, and definitely in great shape for a 20-year-old home or an 18-year-old home. However, when we were pricing the home out, we were seeing a couple of comps. So I pulled up, and let me move us to this corner here on the screen so everybody can see the numbers here. So I pulled up some recent closings because we can see we ended up hitting the market early May. And a couple of homes that had closed that had a very similar floor plan in the last 6 to 12 months from early May. You can see they're a little higher than where we were. And so when I started diving into the comps, though, and this is why it's important to trust to have a real estate agent that understands the market and understands what's happening, because before I even look at the comps, you may think if you're a real estate agent or if you're a homeowner, you may just think, well, there's my price range, 325 to 330. That's where I should be. And then when we really start diving in, I think you'll see why we ended up being at 3099 and why it worked out so well. Like, here's a great comp on in the same neighborhood, very similar home, and yet they have some upgrades. Like for instance, the stone fireplace. It's got hardwood in the living room. It's got an updated kitchen. Whether it's the backsplash, looks like stone countertops, granite countertops, stainless appliances in here as well. And so, it had some upgrades that unfortunately we didn't have. And yet, in order to bring our home up to what this one, basically was with it, with the upgraded kitchen. I mean, you can even see some upgrades in the master bath here as well that unfortunately we didn't have. You're looking at probably $15,000 to $20,000 in work. I mean, that's just the reality of it. And so once we start taking that into consideration, we're thinking, well, if they were at 325, we should probably be at that 305, 310 number somewhere in there. Does that make sense, Jessica, what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you have a chart pulled up that we'll look at in a little bit. The other thing that is important to note here is when this home closed.
Hmm.
And, obviously we have to look at homes that have already closed in the past, and then we have to consider what's been happening in the market,
Sure.
during that time frame. So yeah, I think that's the only other thing here that would be important to note.
Yeah, and we'll see a couple others here as well. Like this, for instance, closed a little bit before we listed, 2 weeks before we listed. So this was one of the better comps for us. And yet again, you can see. I mean, again, the home needed to be painted. I mean, you saw some of the kids' bedrooms that were they were definitely unique. They weren't neutral. Looks like it was brand new in terms of paint. New flooring as well. This one I think does have a pretty basic kitchen as well, pretty comparable kitchen, and yet they do have some stainless steel appliances, which is an upgrade. And when you start adding in paintwork, you start adding in the hardwood floors that you're seeing here, you start adding in the stainless steel appliances. Before you know it, you're back up to about $10,000-$15,000 in work that may need to be done to a home to get it to be equal value. This one right here, you see it sold for 330. They where's it looking for right here? They actually had an extra half bath, and they were about the same size. So something to keep in mind when we're pricing it out. And then the last one right here that we had pulled up as a comp closed at the end of last year. It's quite a bit larger, almost 200 square feet larger than what we're working with. And just when we start pulling up some of the comps, just to skip to the inside again, you can see hardwood in more of the living space than what we were working with. They had this nice little Florida room as well in the back that unfortunately we didn't have. Some stainless appliances, yet similar kitchen to what we're working with. I would say overall, aside from the hardwood though, and maybe a little bit nicer paint, pretty similar to the one we sold in Brentwood Highlands, right?
Yeah, I agree.
And they were at what one, if I can read this, one's 59 a foot, because they were a little bit larger than we were. And if we were similar condition, I believe we were at 160 something a foot. We're right at 160. So I hope, is this making sense in terms of like how we came up with the number that basically this last one was larger, similar condition. They sold right at 330. So we made that adjustment based on that price per square foot. These two had some upgrades that we didn't have, unfortunately, and so we made some of the adjustments based on what would have to happen to make the homes equal. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think what we're looking at here is basically a conversation about finishes and real upgrades. So not staging and not um, the cuteness factor of the house. I know that comes into play sometimes when we're looking at houses for ourselves. When it comes to pricing and when it comes to writing an offer, you have to look at concrete facts and almost like an appraiser would,
Mhm.
and get into the value of a house, like the market value of a house.
Well, exactly, and that's a great segue to what we were going to talk about. And basically, I've got a stat pulled up, and we're going to dive into because this one we got full asking price, and we actually had a super clean offer because we sold first day on the market, and it was a cash offer, no contingencies that we got. That was full price, and reason we share that, the reason I want to share that with y'all real quick is because this is what the market has done. And I know it looks like a lot of up and downs. That's because I've got it set at the monthly trend. If I look at the rolling 12 months, I know there's still some up and downs, and yet it's a little more linear here. But what we're looking at here is the median percentage of list price that a home sells for in this price range. So what I've got pulled up, the zip code that these homes are in, 37211, and priced between 250 and basically 330, 328,999. And you can see the average sales price to list price. So meaning what the average listing is getting, over the last few years, has basically been 100%. I mean, that's the median, I should say, is right at 100%. There's been a couple of peaks and valleys, but even when it's dropped, it's in the low 99%.
Mm.
So, as a buyer, and with the whole purpose of this video that we wanted to get across to y'all, is that when you start seeing homes like this, like pretend this was active at 3099 instead of being sold, if it's priced correctly, which, we price our listings correctly, and that's why we, get the results that we do. When it's priced correctly, as a buyer, that we're going to be paying 99% basically, if not higher for the home, unless of course it's not priced right. And we can get into all the intricacies of what that looks like. And yet, is that making sense?
Yeah, for sure. And then I think this is a great first half of the conversation. And then when we talk about writing an offer, it's not all about sale price either. Some of these may have, ours, we were very, very, lucky, and because of the price that we listed at, we got this very clean offer, no closing costs, no contingencies, just, very clean cash offer. A lot of these other houses that might not have been the case, and buyers could have won the seller over with other items, or I can't think of the word right now. Not appraisals, terms, other terms in their
Other
offer.
terms and the
Yeah.
contingencies that are in the offer. And and there are a lot of factors that go into how to structure the right offer. So for instance, this one, again, we penned it the first day on the market. So when that's the case, as a buyer, we know if like, at least for all the buyers that I represent and we talk to, we know that you're basically first day on the market. You're not shouldn't expect to come in 5%, 10% under asking price, because like we just talked about, median sales price to list price is 100% right now, which is crazy. And when we start looking at the monthly trend, month to month, last month it was a whole 99.4. It hit 100% the previous 3 months here. And so, I'm sure you can see the trend that we're looking at. So that's part of it. The other part of it, though, when we look at it, is again, how long has the home been on the market? So for instance, let's just pull up this one. This one was only 4 days on the market. So again, they're not going to be having to come down a lot. This one right here, they were also priced right. It's 4 days on the market. Here's a great example though. And no shot at the listing agent. I won't even, hopefully you can't read the listing agent, so we're not talking bad about him by any means. It took him about 2 months to find the buyer for this home. And you can see their last list price here was what, 345.
45, yeah.
And so this is a perfect example of how, as a buyer, you're not always just paying asking price. Depends on how well it's priced. Because as we've seen the trend here, just to jump back to the whole list, we've seen the trend here of, when a home is about 2,000 square feet and, it's the condition that it's in, it's going for about 160 a foot with these finishes. So, in 2,200, it plays a factor into pricing. Price per square foot, though, isn't going to vary a ton at that point. You're thinking if it's 160 a foot at 2,200 or 2,170 square feet, 345 was probably what, 165 a foot. Let's see, maybe even 170. Oh, excuse me. They were at 159 a foot when they listed, and they sold at 152 because it'd been 2 months on the market. And that's kind of what I wanted to get across here, is that there's so many factors that go into writing the right offer. It's going to be situational specific. We can find great deals like this one right here. And yet when a home is first day on the market, 4 days on the market, sometimes just winning the home is the win. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. And then do we want to talk a little bit about how people can win the home aside from um, the dollar amount? Because sometimes someone will come in at even an offer that's higher than the list price and not get the deal.
Yeah, well, great topic. And so basically most offers are going to have three what we call contingencies. So it's going to be contingent on the buyer's ability to get their loan, the home's ability to appraise for the contract amount. So that's two. And then the home inspection contingency, that's three. And, there may be a sale of home contingency if you're selling a home as well. That's potentially a fourth. However, just for most buyers, it's three contingencies. And so making any of those contingencies as clean as possible, or even removing them, can go a long way.
Mhm.
So for instance, like this one right here, when we sold it, we mentioned there were no contingent. Well, take that back. There was a home inspection contingency, but it was a quick timeline, and that was the only thing they had, because it was a cash offer. So there's no financing. Since there's no loan, they didn't do an appraisal. So there's two of the three that were gone, and it made it clean. Now, if you're getting a loan and you're like, well, I can't get rid of my financing contingency, I can't get rid of the appraisal contingency, you can, think about, well, how else can I structure the offer and make it more attractive? So
Mhm.
sometimes, and as a buyer's agent, what I always do is we reach out to the listing agent when we're in this type of situation, multiple offers, first day on the market, and we find out, well, hey, what's that seller looking for? Is there a desired closing timeline that works best
Mhm.
for them? That's one of the best things right there. Is there anything else with the offer that would make it more attractive? Some buyers have the ability to go both FHA and conventional. Maybe a seller's rather sell to a conventional buyer instead of an FHA buyer. Like there's so many different factors that start coming into play there. And it's really just finding what makes it more attractive to the seller and tailoring our offer that way if we can.
Yeah, I think that's exactly it. And asking is one of the bigger things. It's such a simple solution to what seems like a complex issue, and so many agents just haven't. I don't know if there's maybe a fear of talking to the listing agent, or I'm not sure. If you're an agent listening to this, please, please, please call and ask, because it makes the biggest difference when it comes to writing the offer.
Oh, exactly. Like the one we were just talking about, Neil Avenue, the one that we just penned it just yesterday, actually, when we penned it, or no, Monday, excuse me, it was Monday when we
Monday,
penned
yep,
it.
yep.
Um, that one right there, I mean, I mentioned we had 7 offers, and it's a competitive situation. Of the 7 offers we got, I think 2, maybe 3 reached out ahead of time and said, well, what's the seller looking for? What type of timeline, et cetera? Because I mean,
Mhm.
obviously, I think every seller is concerned about net bottom dollar and like what they're going to make from the sale.
Mhm.
However, 4 or 5 of the 7 agents who wrote the offer, I don't even know if I got a text from them saying, hey, there's an offer in your inbox. It just kind of
Right.
showed up.
Yep.
And so it does matter who you're working with is what is the point we're trying to get across, because we can't, not only can you find potential deals like a deal like this, or I mean there've been so many that we've worked with over the years with our buyers where we've gotten it for substantially under asking price because of our negotiating, because we spot something that's been on the market for say 2 months before it went under contract.
Mhm.
And on top of that, it's about communication, just like Jessica's saying, about us being able to reach out and say, all right, hey, it's the first day on the market. What's important to you other than sales price here? So that way we
Yeah,
can attempt to win it.
absolutely. And I know, I mean, it might have seemed a little bit counterintuitive to start this conversation with, comping out a property. It seems like something that you do as a seller. Having an agent who can really price a property correctly is also key, because when you're writing an offer, like say you were interested in all 4 of these properties as a buyer, and they'd all been on the market for the same amount of time, and they were all the exact same house, knowing well, I mean, obviously, which one you would go for, but, say they're these exact houses, knowing which one is priced well or which one you like best and what offer to come in at keeps you from overpaying, or from under offering and insulting someone, and keeping them from countering, or it's definitely a dance that you go through when you're writing offers, and having someone who's done it before and who can stand behind the facts is that's very important.
Well, it is. It definitely is. I mean, I echo that, and yeah, I mean, I think what you said makes a lot of sense right there. And comping it out it's imperative. It's an imperative part of the process making an offer, because just because this is the case where on average, or I keep saying on average, the median's around 100. The average is, it's a little bit lower than the median, of course. And yet, when we're looking at the median, it's the middle road of middle home basically. The median is, if for those who aren't the biggest math people. What we're getting at is, just because homes are selling for most of the time what they're asking for, it doesn't mean that every buyer needs to pay exactly what they're asking for the home. And that's why it matters to have an agent who can do this. To have somebody who can do this, look at the numbers and say, hey, does this make sense for the home? In fact, we have one of our clients. I won't give the name, obviously, for confidentiality reasons, but we're working with her to help her find a great home in Bellevue right now. Showed her a wonderful home yesterday. That was, she was considering. Was I usually ask it, and our buyers find this out. I usually ask on a scale of 1 to 10, where would you put it on that scale? And we're looking for somewhere around a 7 to an 8 to a 9, because typically in that, especially 8 to 9 range, it's going to be it's going to be something that somebody's really going to be happy with and want to move forward with. And long story short, she was like, well, including the price, probably about a 7. Maybe if it was priced lower, it would intrigue her. And so I started thinking, well, it actually seems a little overpriced to me. And so I ran the comps on it, and turns out I do think it was probably about $15,000 to $20,000 overpriced from where it sat. And the interesting part about it was we always give feedback to the listing agents of the homes that we tour to hopefully help them if our clients aren't interested in it. And so I actually got a call from this listing agent this morning after I submitted the feedback saying, well, we're thinking maybe it is a little overpriced, not in a disrespectful way, just in a way of saying, hey, just, this is what we're seeing and what the buyer was saying as well. And she was forthcoming and said, yeah, we're looking at doing a price adjustment already. And so, anyway, so that's why it matters to be able to work with somebody who has the ability to look at the numbers and not just say, well, homes are selling for this, so write your offer at that,
Right. Yeah. Because that's assuming that everything is priced correctly.
Exactly. And it's not. I mean, just looking at these four, you see 3 of them were, because I mean, they got full price, full price, full price. And the fourth one, was not.
Yep. Proof's
So,
in the pudding.
yeah, exactly. And I think this is a pretty typical, I guess just little, gosh, what's the word? Like a segment, just a typical like sample size, I guess you could say, of a market. Because I mean, this is what we're seeing. I mean, most homes, the majority of them, they are priced right. They're priced to sell, and yet, a quarter of them, maybe a little less, maybe a little more, but about a quarter of them are not exactly where they need to be, and that's why they're not going under contract within the first few days, like we're seeing. I mean, not to keep reiterating, it's probably right underneath here. So let me just get that out of the way. Like for instance, days on the market. Well, that's not. I was looking for days before contract. I guess it doesn't give me that on here. I wish it did. However, like this type of 4 days or 3 days, like that's the norm. And if it's not happening, 9 times out of 10, it's because of price.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we even said it in previous videos, there isn't a problem that can't be solved by price, by pricing accurately. So yeah, absolutely.
Exactly. I think that's all I had for this one. Do you think did we accomplish what we were wanting to accomplish in terms of kind of going through how to write a competitive offer, what that means, what the numbers look like, et cetera?
Yeah, I think so. And, I mean, I'm in the early stages of looking for a house now, and these are important things to keep in mind, going through the process. And even that point that you made about, 1 through 10, you're not looking for the house that you dreamed up in your head. You're looking for that 9 or 10, or, that 8 or 9 that actually exists.
Well, yeah, exactly. Because what I found for most buyers anyway is most buyers, the 10 is kind of like the next level up. So if
Yeah.
they're like, say they're a buyer's looking in this price range, they're looking in the low 300s. For most buyers, that home that they're envisioning and like the dream home, like the home that I'm going to move forward with as soon as I find it, it's probably priced at like the high 300s or maybe in the 400s even. Like it's a little bit above their range. And so again, that's not to say to settle or anything along those lines. It's just to say, all right, well, let's figure out what's the most important thing for somebody as a buyer. Is it specs like 3-bed, 2-bath, certain neighborhoods, certain certain. I mean, like just speaking from personal experience, when my wife and I moved last a couple of years ago, a big thing for us was we had a neighborhood that we liked, and we wanted I wanted a third bay in our garage. We wanted more space, more garage space, is what it came down to. And we knew that. The neighborhood that was kind of hit or miss with the garage space, and we knew where we wanted to be. So I'm not saying by any means I settled for the home that we're in. We love our home. And at the same time, I mean, just like I'm sure with most people, there's little things here or there we would change. And yet I wouldn't move right now for anything. We love where we are.
Well, there you go.
So, well, perfect. Well, I guess we can cut it off there unless there's anything that we missed or anything else you wanted to share before we adjourn.
No, I think that's it. A great conversation today.
All right, cool. Well, as always, thanks y'all for tuning in. If you need anything or have any questions about any of the stuff that we talked about, give us a call, 615-591-5665. You can PM me as well. Email us, info@foliaproperties.com. And we're happy to share any insights. I mean, even if you're just at the beginning stages of everything, like you're not at the point of looking at homes and you want to just find out more about what the home buying process looks like, reach out. I mean, ultimately, it's while it is a fast-moving market and that some of that may be intimidating to some, the reality is we're able to have a lot of success with our buyers because we're able to pounce on the right homes as they pop up, and we can do the same for you. So if you're interested in that, or finding out what market value is for your home, give us a call and we'll make it happen.
Yep. Thanks, guys.
All right, thanks y'all. Bye.